Have you ever wondered what would happen if you were on a plane and suddenly the roof just vanished? It sounds like something out of a movie, right? But on April 28, 1988, that's exactly what happened to Aloha Airlines Flight 243. Imagine you're flying at 24,000 feet, enjoying the smooth ride, when suddenly, bam, part of the plane's roof tears off. You're thrown into chaos as the wind roars and the temperature drops. Passengers are stunned, and the flight crew is faced with a crisis they never expected. Stick around to find out how everyone handled this terrifying situation. You'll see how the crew managed to keep calm and guide the plane to safety, and how passengers coped with the unimaginable. But before we begin the video, don't forget to subscribe to this channel to explore some more amazing and unbelievable facts. On April 28, 1988, Aloha Airlines Flight 243, a Boeing 737-297 named Queen Liliuokalani, took off from Hilo at 1:25 p.m., heading for Honolulu. This seasoned aircraft, flying for nearly 20 years, was carrying 89 passengers eager for a quick inter-island trip, along with a crew of 6 on board. The flight was under the skilled hands of Captain Robert Schornsteimer and First Officer Maurice Mo Cahill, both known for their calm and steady flying. With a crew of 5 flight attendants on board, everything seemed set for a smooth flight. But just after reaching cruising altitude of 24,000 feet, the calm flight turned into a scene of chaos. The plane started to shake and jolt violently, and passengers who were previously relaxed and chatting were now in a panic. The sudden loss of cabin pressure exposed the interior to the freezing high-altitude air, creating a terrifying situation for everyone on board. Even before this nightmare began, an alert passenger had noticed a small crack near the roof while boarding and mentioned it to a flight attendant. Unfortunately, it was brushed off as a minor issue. Little did anyone know, this small crack was a sign of the larger disaster about to unfold. Hold on tight, because the story of how the crew and passengers faced this dramatic crisis and fought to bring the plane safely back to the ground is one you won't want to miss. A heart-pounding descent. Everything seemed normal as the plane climbed to its cruising altitude of 24,000 feet. But just after 1:48 p.m., disaster struck about 23 nautical miles from Kahului. A large section of the plane's roof, about 18 feet long, suddenly ripped away, leading to explosive decompression. Chaos erupted inside the cabin as freezing air rushed in, throwing everyone into a panic. In the cockpit, First Officer Madeline "Mimi" Tompkins was at the controls when the emergency hit. Captain Robert Schornsteimer quickly took over, fully aware that time was of the essence. The plane shook violently, rolling from side to side, while bits of insulation floated around like confetti in the chaos. It was a surreal and terrifying situation. During the chaos, flight attendant Clara Bell C.B. Lansing was tragically swept out of the plane, leaving her fellow crew members in shock. With the cabin in turmoil and passengers in panic, it was a race against time for the remaining crew to maintain order. Despite the terrifying circumstances, the other cabin crew members displayed incredible bravery. They worked tirelessly to keep passengers calm, reassuring them amid the chaos and ensuring everyone was secured. It felt like a scene from a movie as the cabin erupted in chaos, with the loud rush of air making it almost impossible to communicate with the control tower. Passengers were screaming in fear, and debris was flying everywhere, making it hard to breathe. In the cockpit, First Officer Tompkins and Captain Schornsteimer were battling to keep the plane steady while it shook violently. They knew they had to act fast to declare an emergency and get everyone safely on the ground. With part of the cockpit exposed to the open sky, Captain Schornsteimer and Mimi knew they had to act fast. They initiated an emergency descent, focusing on stabilizing the aircraft despite severe turbulence. Their priority was clear: get everyone safely to Kahului Airport for an emergency landing. But man, things were not that easy. Desperate call, unreachable contact to control tower. Mayday, Mayday, this is Flight 815. We're in trouble up here. Captain Schornsteimer's voice crackled urgently over the radio, competing with the howl of rushing air that filled the cockpit. First Officer Tompkins gripped the controls tightly, trying to stabilize the aircraft as it bucked and shook. Pieces of the interior floated around them, and the gaping hole where the cockpit door had been let in a chilling view of the sky. Despite their efforts, the chaos made it nearly impossible to get through to the control tower for an emergency landing. They repeated their distress call desperately, hoping against hope for a clear response amidst the deafening roar that surrounded them. Miracle landing. Flight 815's dramatic emergency on Maui. When chaos broke out on Flight 815, things got really scary. There was this loud noise, parts of the plane flying around, and the oxygen masks didn't even come down because they got swept away with the lost part of the roof. People started turning blue because there wasn't enough air to breathe up there. The pilot, realizing how serious it was, decided to bring the plane down fast towards Kahului Airport in Maui. But going down so quickly made it even harder for everyone to catch their breath. The crew, though, stayed cool. They went around telling everyone to stay calm, buckle up tight, and get ready for a bumpy ride. As the plane zoomed down, it felt like forever. But then, the pilot slowed things down as they got lower, and suddenly, it got easier to breathe. As Flight 815 descended towards Kahului Airport on Maui, tension gripped the cockpit as the crew faced several critical challenges. The left engine had failed mid-flight, leaving the pilots to rely solely on the right engine to keep the plane in the air. Adding to their worries, they weren't sure if the nose gear had deployed properly. If it hadn't, there was a real risk of a disastrous crash upon landing due to the plane's high speed. With steady nerves, the pilots maneuvered the 19-year-old Boeing 737 towards runway 2. On the ground, the Kahului Airport ground crew anxiously monitored the approaching aircraft. As Flight 815 made its final approach, the tension was palpable both in the air and on the ground. Miraculously, amidst the fear and uncertainty, the pilots executed a flawless touchdown. The right engine roared as the plane slowed down, and with a collective sigh of relief, the nose gear locked into place. Emergency evacuation procedures were quickly carried out, with passengers sliding down the evacuation slides to safety. On the ground, Maui's emergency responders, supported by Akamai Tours, sprang into action. Former paramedics set up triage stations and used 15 passenger vans to transport any injured passengers to nearby medical facilities. Remembering Aloha Airlines Flight 243. After the intense events of Aloha Airlines Flight 243, big changes happened to make flying safer. The investigation showed where things went wrong, and they made sure to improve how they inspect and build planes. These upgrades were all about preventing similar problems in the future, making sure everyone on board stays safe no matter where they're flying. Flight 243 taught the whole aviation world important lessons. Airlines everywhere started checking their planes more carefully, especially the older ones, to catch any issues early and fix them. It was all about being proactive and making sure everything was in top shape before taking off. In 1995, they honored flight attendant Clarabelle Lansing at Honolulu Airport with a special garden. She showed incredible bravery during the crisis, reminding us all how tough and risky aviation can be, but also how strong people are when they work together to keep everyone safe.